one of the real values of the Connected Communities program is the sharing across communities, that your experience can benefit others by sharing your previous knowledge, your gained experience through the program, what's working, what's challenging, and lots of learning by doing in this program. And so if we can help each other leap over some of these barriers and have greater success, that's really a positive influence of the program. And so today, our main goal is to really start that sharing process about what people are feeling good about with their programs and what kind of activities you're undertaking. And then feel free to share your challenges as well, whether that's logistical or organizational or trying to reach the right clients in your community, dealing with broadband providers, and so on. And so it's really a wide open discussion. And so we're just going to go community by community and kind of receive an update, about 5 minutes or so, if you can, about what you're doing. And then we'll come back and we'll look for some themes and we'll ask some questions and hopefully have a good open discussion. And so just going to catch Adrienne off guard and see if she's got any thoughts or well wishes or advice for today.
Oh, Bill, I love it. Yes. No, I'm never caught off guard, Bill. Come on. I can always talk. Anyway, I'm so pleased to see everybody. And I know you're well underway. And I'm super looking forward to hearing what you all have been up to. And I totally agree with Bill. We saw in the first cohort that many times communities with similar interests or issues started to talk with each other offline and even work towards collaboration. So I think it's these kinds of sessions are really important, and I'm looking forward to hearing from everybody. That's it, Bill.
Thanks, Adrienne. We're going to call on Katie Heaton from Fairmont City. Katie's champion there of the Connected Communities program. Katie, tell us about Fairmont City and kind of your situation and what you've been doing to move forward on your priorities.
Well, it's 2022, and I think everyone's getting really excited about our upcoming start date of April to get residents hooked up. We've been watching the utility work being done with trunk lines of fiber coming in. And I think I also mentioned last time we got together that a neighboring village, Washington Park, when they heard that Fairmont City was coming online, they kind of tapped out on the shoulders and said us too, and Spectrum gave them a yes also. So when we came online, we brought in Washington Park as well. So they've got utility work going on over there. And both of our communities are going to be coming up soon. So everyone's kind of getting really excited about that. I did hear recently from Charter Spectrum that they're reaching out to us to talk about the Spectrum Internet Assist, which is they're operating, this is a program for students K through 12 who qualify for the school lunch program or seniors 65 plus on SSI assistance. They're saying it's $17.99 a month for speeds of 30 with a wireless router in the home. So I reached out to them and asked them if that was part of the what used to be called the EBB, but now it's what, ACH or something, to see if they're including that or if that's a standalone program. So I would be interested to know if you guys know the answer to that question, waiting to hear back from them. For us, the ICC grant monies is going to be used for subsidies to get families hooked up the first month or two, depending on how many families hook up right away. We hope to be able to use that as subsidies. Originally, we had come on board before we had a franchise agreement with Charter Spectrum, but since we were able to get that franchise agreement, we moved into adoption. And so that's what we're looking at now. I have recently also reached out to PCs for People. We've worked with them before. And we still have grant monies to move forward, giving away free computers and free hotspots because we have the grant money that can make up the difference between what is charged to the patrons. So we're trying to remove all barriers so there won't be any barrier for any family to get a computer or a hotspot. So we're still working on that. I don't have a new date yet, but one of the reasons we're delayed on that is because originally when we worked with PCs for People, we helped like 57 families with computers and hotspots, but it wasn't handled very well. We ended up with a lot of people who were kind of like dropped from service. Their names and information was never entered into a computer. They were never able to go on and renew their hotspots. Some of them came to the library for assistance, and we walked them all through it and figured those things out. And it wasn't until the new CEO guy, Kevin Poe, came on board that he was unable to uncover the fact that our piles of paper from our event was still kind of like sitting at the office. And so they've been reaching out to all 57 of those patrons saying, are you good? Have you been using your computer? Do you need assistance? Is your hotspot still on? Is it running? Do you have any questions? And they had to have Spanish support to do that as well. So working through that, and as soon as they feel confident that they've got those 57 families good, then we're going to move forward with another date. So that's what the little holdup is on that. Last time we were together, Bill, you mentioned about computer classes, and as we move forward with everyone coming online and then having the tech, having computers, hotspots, or hooked up, whatever the case may be for them at the time, about computer classes, which we can do at the library, but we also talked about business computer classes. And I did have a contact over at SBDC, which is Joanne DiMaggio May, and I reached out to her and asked her about doing business type computer classes, and she is a go for that. She mentioned things like maybe QuickBooks, something along those lines. So we'll be able to reach out to the businesses as they start to get hooked up and ask them what they would need help with, and we can move forward with that as well. So that's sort of what we've been up to. Feeling good about the date really coming close, especially since they originally had told us fall of 21, but fall of 21 turned out to be the design phase, not the hookup residence phase. So we were a little disappointed when we heard about April of 22, but April 22 is quickly approaching, so everyone's getting excited about that. So there's more people talking about it, more people talking about spectrum, fiber, coax, what does that mean, speed, reliability. They're all having those conversations now, which is good in the community. The challenges, I would say, is trying to keep everybody calm, waiting for the packages to be officially announced. So they're getting really chomping at the bit right now. So that would probably be the biggest challenge we have, is everyone just waiting for the official announcements and officially being able to sign up. So that's the update from Fairmont City.
Hey, Katie, could you list the name of the other community again slowly
Yeah, Washington Park.
Washington Park. Thank you so much.
Yeah, our mayor actually went over to them and helped them set everything up to bring them on board with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. That's so good. Thanks so much. David, do you want to talk to us about North Chicago?
Absolutely. We've kind of started a little bit later in the program here. We jumped in, we've had about 3 or 4 meetings under our belts, meeting with community partners, different volunteers, different philanthropic partners, working on just what options we provide to the community. We already provide, on behalf of the district, we provide Comcast internet paid for by the district for any student in the whole district at 50 meg per second. We did hotspots. We did find that due to the housing situation in North Chicago, hotspots were not the ideal route. Some families have 6, 7 kids. Some single family households have multiple families in them. And we're really just trying to work through these one by one. We do have connections out there now. There is not fiber in place. That may be future down the road, but we're really utilizing the Comcast network for this to assist us. We are in the middle of building a new middle school, and I think that's going to assist us in a possible wireless situation. But that's in the future. Again, right now we're talking with other our park district, our city, and other partners like AbbVie Medical on getting devices and kind of our own like tech support help center for the community. We've opened up the tech help desk at the school district for the community during the pandemic. It really turned into helping families get email addresses, showing them how to connect to the internet and what it's used for, and really looking for a solution on how we can get that to a wider audience in North Chicago. show them what the internet's used for. You don't have to write checks for paying bills. You don't have to go drop off cash, things like that. It's kind of where we're at right now.
Good. I got a little distracted. Did you talk about your partnership now, the emerging partnership with the Park District?
Yeah, so we're utilizing the Park District. We've brought over a bunch of our older Chromebooks that are just less than a year past end of life. We're allowing them to distribute. I gave them 30 devices to distribute to the community. We also are distributing another 50 devices to the community ourselves. And then we have plenty more where that comes from, but plenty of older Chromebooks, I'm sure as well, many other school districts on here do. But we're utilizing those for the community, and then some just about to hit end of life devices are being utilized at the Park District for student classes, support, helping families get connected and helping them create emails. We really noticed when we rolled out our electronic registration system that our families just did not have email addresses. About 70% of our families were utilizing their phone numbers to create emails through Schoolmint. And that's, I mean, no communication is getting out to them then. So it's, again, figuring out how to get the families connected to the resources so that way we can get better communication to them from the district.
Good. And that seems, and I think that's an interesting topic for consideration, and maybe for our webinar next month on the 8th about broadband use. Is how do you know, it's one thing for organizations like schools and housing developers and so on to gear up their online communications, but somebody has to be there to receive it and know how to respond and so on. And so increasing that interactivity, I think, is it sounds like it's a challenge that you're trying to address, and I think it's probably not unusual for many different populations.
Yeah, I think a lot of our population, being the demographic that we have, they're worried about privacy concerns. They're worried about having IDs, having identifying information posted on the internet. And we're really trying to help them understand obviously there is a privacy risk with the internet, but it's all about how you handle that as well. It's how secure you set yourself up for.
Just the other day, Benton was promoting a document about trust and broadband deployment and broadband subscriptions and so on. And one of the findings was that, like, schools and nonprofits tend to be, you know, high on the trusted partner list, but yet there's still concerns. And so I've been looking for, and I've tasked one of our, Adrienne, one of our team, to kind of look for some of that strategies for how do you increase that interactivity and effective communication with folks through online things. I started riffing on maybe that we need kind of like frequent flyer points, essentially, that when people respond back to an email, they get, you know, a little ka-ching, you know, a little reward for that, and get people in the habit of responding, and whatever they, you know, get a free ice cream sandwich at lunch or something if mom responds to an email or something. So it'll be fun to think about that a little bit.
We've dabbled with like gift cards for getting families connected, especially at the early part of the year, and then doing a raffle with the amount of families that were connected. It's just, we have a lot of families that see our restrictions at the school district. Obviously, we are very strict on our web filter processes, what we can see. Lots of students we're finding a lot of students messaging things that we're obviously handling at the district level. And that was one of our fears with the D187 Cares program and getting Comcast internet, is families, and this ended up being true, families thinking that we have full control over their internet and we're watching what they're doing, and it's not the case. I always joke around from the tech standpoint whenever I see computers with the stickers on the cameras and things. It's always, you know, we're still busy getting to your tickets. We don't have time to watch your cameras. It's just explaining that, yeah, it's out there, but it's basic internet.
Good. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Rose, tell us what you're doing at Community Builders.
So at Community Builders, we have formed two teams. One is our technical team, which consists of CHA, AT&T, AR Design, and TCB IT department. And then we've formed a steering committee with community stakeholders consisting of the alderman's office, some residents, some youth representation, and we got hold of a local library staff who will be joining our meeting. We've also built a Gantt chart to keep us aligned with the deliverables. And so right now we are still collecting surveys, which we will be sharing next month. During the steering committee 2 meetings, we've been charting out the course of the next 6 months, what we wanted to focus on. And the following issues came up. Devices were an issue. Technology literacy was an issue. And so we decided to partner with PC for People. And next month, they will be distributing 150 devices. We are also collaborating with CHA, who will be introducing our residents to online self-guide resources on know how to use technology, as well as signing up residents for Illinois emergency relief, the $30 a month internet connection. What else? So that's where we are so far.
Good. Can you tell us more about how you've been doing the survey?
Other TCB communities that might benefit from having towers installed on top of the building so that all the units can have internet connection.
Good, good. Can you talk a little bit more about your process for getting this survey out to residents?
Yeah, so we have a rent cafe. Most residents pay some residents pay their rent on rent cafes. So we're sending out SurveyMonkey, and also we're sending out paper survey, as well as having 2 computers set up at our Oakwood Center. When residents come in, they can just finish the survey. And then we will be doing a raffle for the ones who complete before the end of February. We will be distributing 2 devices, which we got by your help. Thank you.
Yeah, so PCs for People donated those laptops to use as prizes, right?
And so in our next meeting, we will be discussing planning for the 2 town hall meetings that we are supposed to hold with our stakeholders.
Good, thank you. It was really fun to see the youth representative on your team at the last meeting. He was very shy, but we got him to contribute, and then at the very end, we made him put his camera on, so you could see he liked his privacy a little bit, and but that was fun to have his input. Good, thank you so much. Carolyn, do you want to tell us about Latinx DLN?
Sure. I have 5 initiatives to share, and I'll go really high level because otherwise I'll go over 5 minutes. But basically, with each of the 5 initiatives in partnership with the Village of Summit and other leaders, we have other external partners that are helping us with this initiative. The first, I'm going to say it's with addressing broadband, the adoption and the use. We are working with partner Harlan Forward and LULAC to help us increase the use of those subsidies, the ACP, Affordability Connected program. And so we're doing a baseline of, working with your office or the Office of Broadband as far as the zip codes 60501 what do they have now, and how do we get an increase over the next, few months? So that's the first one. Of course, the school districts, the mayor, the library has been very helpful, great community partners. The second one is with the youth, we have launched an intro to cybersecurity, a bilingual program that through a Cisco Net Academy that we have this partnership. We are able to offer free courses, and we have volunteers to mentor. And it's a self-paced online course, and it offers those that are interested in pursuing tech careers from very basic, and then eventually there'll be more advanced courses in cybersecurity, and it's all self-paced. So again, we're working very closely with the village and districts and the library to get enrollments. So we've got target enrollments of 50 in the next month or so. Next is the Tech Wellness Check. This partnership with CSC Consulting, offering pro bono on-site and virtual checks with businesses and nonprofits in Summit that will help them be prepared to work remotely, to just have the right bandwidth and to have the right protection in their businesses and nonprofits with their internet. That's the third one. Again, with the partners, community partners we meet on a regular basis have been excellent in helping get the word out. And right now the mayor we're looking to set up a meeting with one of the businesses to host a luncheon so that we can share with them all the different services that are available for the businesses. Fourth, it's again on use. It's computer science for teachers to be better prepared to serve all students, particularly in underrepresented groups, girls and students of color. So with Summit being a target, but it is a statewide program that we're launching with the new legislation, HB 2170 in the state of Illinois that was passed last year. Computer science will be required across the state. In districts right now, not all of them, most of them aren't offering computer science. So there's two-phased approach for implementing computer science to increase technology for students. One is on computer literacy for all grades, and then that's required to be implemented this year. So our program is going to offer 45 teachers that serve English learners a professional development intense course during the summer in a partnership with the IRC and with code.org. So that's the fourth one. It's been just in the development stage. We're recruiting enrollment from teachers in the Summit school districts and actually across the state. And then the fifth, we're just in the initial stages also to bring in PCs for People to Summit, and we're working with the school districts to help identify the right date or even a neutral place like the park so that we can get as many of these computers available and also get them enrolled in this subsidy program. So those are the five, and they're all at different stages. And again, we're targeting the village of Summit. They've been wonderful to work with, all the leaders. But our organization is statewide. So as this develops, if there's interest, I'm more than happy to have a dialogue with anyone else that's interested in any of these programs. Basically, that's my report.
Good, thank you so much. That's great. McHenry County, I don't see David here, but I see John Hummel and Peter Austin, another couple. So John, I know you've been at most of the planning meetings. Your thoughts on action so far?
So I've actually missed the last maybe one or two from the McHenry County, so I don't know where they're at as a whole. For us, we do have a E-Rate E, the Emergency Connectivity Fund proposal out there for a LTE network to be installed in Harvard that would connect all of our families that are in need with a private LTE network that's provided by the district. So the proposal was for towers and installation, all that kind of stuff to be built in Harvard to connect our rural families to our district. So we would provide the internet through that system Because we do have about 500 hotspots that we have out there, but it's the same problem that North Chicago has, where you have a lot more than just one person in a household. And so one hotspot is never enough. So by building this more robust network, we're hoping to really connect all of our families. So that's kind of the big thing that we're working on in Harvard.
And so who did you apply for funding to on that?
It's the through E-rate. There's an emergency connectivity fund.
Yeah,
So
okay.
exactly right.
We submitted-
Emergency, yeah, thank you, sorry.
Yep. We submitted a proposal for that, along with stuff for like Chromebooks. So we've already got funding on the Chromebooks, but I just reached out to them today and they said they're still reviewing it. So we'll see. It was part of their first window, so it's been since October, but it's a big ask, so we'll see.
And then how far out from Harvard would that go? How
From
many
like the
miles
city,
out?
from the city center, it's, all of our school districts. So, it would be close to the border with Wisconsin, all the way down to the border with Woodstock. So it's a pretty substantial area. It's a lot of rural families and farmland and stuff. So they're looking at 3 towers for those areas, plus 3 towers within the city center as well.
And what kind of bandwidth would that provide to home users?
So I think we can choose how much we would offer, but we have 10 gigs coming into our district. We're looking at adding additional bandwidth coming in as well. So it would kind of siphon off from that, but I think we can, be able to handle a little bit of that.
John,
Is
did you
that
say
a
it was,
free service?
It would be free to our families, yes.
and you said it was 6 towers total, 3 in Harvard, 3 outside?
Correct. Yeah. 3 that would there'd be mini towers on a couple of our buildings, and then
Okay.
full blown towers. Either we'd have to build them or connect to existing ones. It's through Nokia. That's who presented the proposal to us. So.
Good.
Great, thank you.
And then Peter, from the county perspective, I know you have I think an expression of interest or something like that out around fiber.
I hadn't, I've not been able to sit in the last couple of Internet Freedom McHenry County meetings, but I will try and be in this afternoon. But the county itself is moving ahead, as we have been for a while, and designing a new ring in the western part of the county to go up and touch Harvard and swing down to Marengo and back down to 90. We are courting interest from about 15 different providers right now who might want to build or serve off of that line. Gonna leave that open for about 8 weeks and see what kind of interest we get. And meanwhile, we are now engaging with the R1 planning group out of Rockford to write us our grant for the new DCO opportunity that became available last week. So we're moving ahead on both those fronts and hopefully get some good news in the coming months.
Peter, can I ask a question? Is this an open access ring? And so any of those 15 providers could potentially build off the fiber ring?
That's really what we're thinking, is that we're gonna let other people tell us how they're going to serve the most residents possible. We're open to ideas, and that's why we're leaving this open for so long, as we can hear ideas from the private sector how they best want to do this. But this is not about the county trying to make money. We're just trying to get access and get the private market to serve some of these less dense areas that have been hard to serve in the past. But now, if we get this ring out there, that maybe they can make it more economical for some of these smaller ISPs to connect. So that's what we're thinking about.
Good, thank you so much. And many times these broadband efforts, they start in one place and they end up in another place. They start with one group, and then another group takes the lead. And so in McHenry County, we've got Internet Freedom for McHenry County. They're our applicant for our ICC program, but now we see the county really taking a strong role in promoting broadband as well. So that's a nice development, and brings some real institutional capacity and heft to the process. So happy to have the county involved. Diane or Jennifer, do you want to tell us about Carrollton and what's going on there? I know Diane is always kind of shy, so maybe Jennifer.
Sure,
take the lead.
sure. I can go ahead and kind of let you know where we are. So Bill, we're looking forward to seeing you next week on camera where we host a community meeting of our local officials. Carrollton is a small community, and in the process of building our plan, many of the people on the committee, if not all of them, thought we need to do this as a county, not just a town. And so we're actually, the group reached out to Greene County Economic Development and asked for a donation to help out, come together. They're hiring a consultant to kind of build the map of what the entire county looks like from a speed test. So the meeting next week with local leaders, libraries, health departments, we're hosting it in a grade school and working with the school district to do that will be an opportunity to kind of build that trust as we get ready to embark on that survey tool, and just making sure everyone's on the same page and coming together as a county to do this work. And so that's what's happening right now.
Thank you, Jennifer.
You bet.
Diane, any other things you want to add to that?
No, she did good. I have been contacted by a couple of providers that are interested in talking to us, but I'm not sure. I was going to just bring it up at our next meeting with you next Wednesday. I don't know
Okay.
at what time do we start talking to providers? One
Yeah,
of them has already got fiber in the area, but nothing to the home, Metro Communications. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. That's great that stirring up some dust there and attracting attention from providers is always a good thing. And when they're calling you, that's a positive thing, especially when they want to come in and start to serve the customer base. One thing when we think about that, you want to make sure your goals are in alignment between both the provider and your community. And then as when we started this program with Carrollton, you think, okay, it might be kind of easy to build a fiber to the home network in Carrollton, but now when you think, okay, now our universe is Greene County, how are we going to make sure that everyone in the county gets benefit as well? And so it's an interesting dance, not only with the providers, but then just within your own building that trust between the communities, which isn't always there between the county seat and the rest of the county or different towns within a county. And so
Right. I'm hoping after our meeting Thursday, I think we should get a feel for how the other towns are going to jump on board. We hope with our survey and help with that. And the county themselves are kind of staying hush hush, wouldn't you say, Jennifer? They don't really want to commit to anything at this point in helping out with this. But I'm hoping as we move forward that they will jump on, because they do have a lot of ARPA money, and I don't know that it's all spoken for and obligated yet. So they got like 2 million. So I hope that they can jump in on this project as we move forward with it.
Good. Well, thank you for that. And it's always interesting to see how these things happen. We heard about efforts at Harvard School District, where they're taking the lead on becoming a broadband provider for parts of the community and the surrounding area, and all kinds of different models can come in and serve the community need if you know exactly what you're trying to accomplish. Sometimes you can have one group off doing things that may help a particular location or sector of the community, but not really benefit community-wide. So those are things to all think about as you go forward. I see Kathy Brown and Gracie Klukas on the call from Tazewell County. Who wants to give the update?
I can speak first, and then Kathy, if you want to jump in, you can. Our updates are, we've been struggling a lot with participation, but over the course of the new year, our participation has been growing, which has been good. Last week we approved a survey we're going to implement in Tazewell County, which is great. And we're hoping to have a broadband summit maybe at the end of April to like share the results of that. Discussions on like funding and like how to go about that implementation is going to happen this week. So we've been meeting more consistently, which has been good. Kathy and I are meeting with 3 ISPs this week, and some of our members have been meeting with some ISPs as well, and just continuing those conversations to be prepared for when we start getting more in depth with broadband planning. Our main concern obviously is access across our rural county. And so we're just really trying to kind of heat up the engagement and talk to as many community stakeholders as we can, and kind of get Tazewell prepared for when like funding does come available. One of our biggest struggles has been some members fixating on like that the county board doesn't want to commit ARPA money at the moment, but we're trying to like show that there's other avenues, and like being broadband planning ready has its own place, and that fixating on the county board is important, but only a piece in the broadband planning process. We're lucky that in Tazewell, there's already a PCs for People ongoing distribution site. So there's always that avenue for access, or for affordable technology if we need to direct people there. But we've started off a little slow. The participation has been obviously our biggest issue, but we're making the slow steps, and the survey is going to be good. So we're really excited about that. And we're meeting again this Thursday. So continual updates, feeling better in the new year, which is nice. Kathy, do you have anything else to add?
I don't. I think that really hit all the key points of kind of where Tazewell County is at today.
Good. And I think as groups, it's interesting as we work through these programs with communities over a 9-month or a year-long process. The groups, you're going to have some turnover, that some people join and then they can't really follow through on their commitment, or some people lose interest. And then many times you get people who discover the group later and are some of the best champions to emerge. And so I think recruiting is a constant activity, that bringing people into your group, more participation, more input, different perspectives, different expertise is really an ongoing task for all the communities as you move forward. So I just encourage you to recognize that you need to be working on that, and always be welcoming. I think is a really important part of this process, is that there's some people feel a real need to control kind of the activities and who's a part of it, and immediately mold the solution. But I think we find that the communities that are more open to a variety of perspectives and come up with the better solutions. And so I just encourage you to think about that moving forward.
Bill,
Thanks,
I did have a
Casey.
question.
Mm-hmm.
This is Kathy. I had a question. As we go into these ISP interviews, and you've provided us with a question set that we can utilize and kind of shape those conversations. I wondered if we needed to kind of systematically capture notes. Is that something that your team would be interested in? And should we put that up there in SurveyMonkey or Qualtrics? The gist of that conversation for learning and discovery?
That's a great question. So a lot of times providers, they'll kind of say, oh, well, we'll tell you this, but we can't, please don't print it or put it into print and so on. So you have to find that balance with providers, that you're gathering that information and then building that kind of trust relationship that is so important to actually coming to a deal where you're exchanging dollars and commitments and so on. And so I guess I would be, it's always smart to collect notes and everything, but I'd be hesitant to put too many of them in writing in public locations. I think there's one of the biggest issues, and we heard this a little bit with Fairmont City, is that charters said, yeah, we're coming and we're going to start in October or November. And what they thought was, in their brain starting was doing the engineering and the planning. The community thought, oh, that's the construction. And so two very different activities that already kind of damaged Charter's reputation within the community, that, oh, they said they're going to start last fall. People thought by Christmas we'll have this. And then here it is 6 months later when service will really be delivered. And so I think it's really important to have really good, clear communications with them, and then recognize what's really going to be essential, opportunity to publicize. You'd love to hear progress, but you also, one of the things I'd encourage you is when providers have a unique way of communicating, and they're very optimistic many times as to what's possible. When they say something's possible, you can still be a long way from an agreement. And so I just encourage you to always keep that in mind and know that there's a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross before things get too public. So I think that's a great question, Kathy. But I would encourage discretion, that if people who are in this group are involved in economic development, premature press releases are a real negative occurrence. And so you don't ever want to get out in front of the provider and so on. So and you never want to, frankly, sometimes it can be pretty thin skinned too. So you just want to make sure that you're building a trusted relationship there, and see what they say is, they might give you maps, and you might want to say, oh, let's put these in the paper or put them in a report or so on. But just, holding them in some kind of confidence, I think can be important.
That makes perfect sense in terms of how to think about this. I was, thinking that there would be a need for follow-up conversation with you and members of the Connect Illinois team to help us kind of interpreting what we heard, and how to utilize that information to the greatest extent possible, I think, too. But yeah, I see it largely as relationship building, but I do think we want to keep track of, kind of what they tell us in terms of how they intend to operate, or their goals for the region.
I think that's really true. And I know that for myself, I'm happy to, I don't know that I could necessarily sit in on a bunch of provider interviews, but if you're interested in getting feedback on what they've told you, or, after you've met with several of them, we can go through that. Or if you're really interested in having me participate, I can do that. But know that sometimes even who's in the room can really influence that discussion. And so the idea of, oh, this person's, represents the state of Illinois or something, for some providers, that might be a positive. Other ones might be less willing to share. And so, and that's something you just have to kind of tease out as you're setting up the meetings, and asking them about who they would like from the community in the meeting, and finding out from their team who's going to be there. It's really important to, sometimes the bigger companies, they'll just send a government relations person, and they'll nod a lot and smile, but not necessarily give you much information about, the real opportunities in the community or the barriers to deploying better infrastructure. And so making sure that, there's folks in the room that can really answer your questions is good. And many times providers will say, well, we can't give you a map of the services or infrastructure. And I always feel compelled then to draw my best map of what I think is occurring in that area. And then providers always feel compelled to correct your map. So they won't necessarily give you one to take with you, but they might tell you what's wrong with your map and where the gaps are. And so it is kind of a relationship building. It is a bit of a dance with the providers to, not, some communities have some pretty bad existing providers that have not invested. And so there can be a lot of anger in the room from the community about people who can't get connections, or the customer service is poor. And you always have to remember, what's the purpose is, if you'd like them to invest in your community, to make them feel, in a safe environment for them. And, but at the same time, you want to put their feet to the fire a little bit as well. Good. Thomas from the city of Waukegan.
Hey, everyone. So we've really had two sets of broadband efforts going on, and obviously Benton and Bill have been helpful in both. First of all, we have our broadband task force, which is a combination of the school district, the health department, a bunch of nonprofits, United Way, and that's been working on getting our master plan for citywide accomplished or created. So we've just received our draft, all 170 pages. So working through that. But then in terms of the lane that I know Bill and Benton had really wanted to add to, has been the workforce aspect of it. And so we've met with Lake County Workforce Development, also with the one other entity, Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce has a regional hub partnership through one of the DCO grants with a local entity. And we've been exploring a pilot program essentially in our downtown area to get a sense of what is the adoption and use, currently with our downtown businesses and those partners there, which also includes, it's everything from our College of Lake County has a campus here, the county as the county seat, we have the major campus here, and then library and a bunch of other businesses, about 100 businesses. So exploring that and trying to roll that out as a pilot for then eventually to take that citywide. One of our challenges, just speaking bluntly, is my capacity. And so trying to bring in some of our other Waukegan coworkers and some of the members of our broadband task force. And I think as we were kind of moving through our master plan process, there are definitely components of it that are workforce, both worker and employer-based focuses of the master plan. And so pulling in some of our partners from that task force to help with this, I think is something that is becoming a necessity. We had a coworker leave, and so I'm covering someone else's job too. So I know that's been a little bit of a challenge and limitation working with Bill and not really getting the most out of this opportunity. But a lot of willingness from partners. So that's been, I think, very helpful. Our meeting today, even discussing our master plan, the health department was willing to connect us with some folks from essentially a job group, partners. North Chicago probably knows about them. Partners, Lake County Partners are essentially a workforce or an employer entity out this way, and trying to bring them in for help. And so that's the long and the short of where we've been at, and a little bit delayed and challenged, which is frustrating.
Good. We've heard a little challenge about the resources and participation and so on. A few folks have some teams that are building. And David, do you want to talk about your team at North Chicago and the progress you've made to continue to build that?
I just caught the end of that. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, we're talking, a lot of people have some barriers about resource availability and people on their teams. you've had some success recently about, going after and recruiting folks to participate. Any advice for people as they build their teams?
Involve as many people as you possibly can. That's really what I did. We reached out to, sorry, I have my camera off right now, but we reached out to a lot of our partners and basically just did word of mouth and had just blanket invites to have people join the group. It worked in a lot of cases, and then it didn't work with like the city. We really had to keep it down to one person. But when it came to the Navy being included, it was really helpful to have like the Navy liaison invite a bunch of people. It turned out, honestly, to help us out. NCCP was able to connect us with other partners like Mano a Mano or Boy Girls Club of America, a few other pieces that wanted to definitely jump in and help out.
Good, thank you. And Brittany from Community Builders, you've been really in charge of trying to bring residents into the process and the youth. What's your secret?
Well, I don't know that it's a secret, but we definitely like to pull our residents. Well, we found that the best practice for us to engage our residents are through incentives. So a lot of times we offer our residents gift cards. We try to pull in resources and donations that may help them like in their household, like right now PPE essentials. So that's been really big for our residents. So it can even be something as simple as, oh, well, we have this PPE essential kit that your family may need. Just find a way to get them involved through incentives. That really works for us at Oakwood Shores. Like I even just recently I got a Chipotle gift card donation. So that's something that I use to kind of incentivize our internet survey. So incentives, that's like a really big thing for us at Oakwood Shores.
Okay, good, thank you. A lot of times one of the biggest incentives is kind of enlightened self-interest. As you think about who's going to really benefit from better internet service or being able to connect better with their kids in the schools and so on, is to appeal to that. You can say, well, this is for the community, you should just come help. But if it can really help people directly and they can see how it can do that, that's a positive thing. How about at Latinx DLN, Carolyn or Griselda?
As far as what do you want to cover?
How do you build your team?
Well, it's really is been hearing, just keep inviting, and internally there's a lot of work to be done, and in our case we rely a lot on our volunteers in our roles, also with LULAC, a civil rights organization for Latinos. It's a national with local council, so we have one in Summit. So we engage volunteers that are tech experts to assist and continue expanding the work. And then as far as in the engagement in the community in Summit, I think it's key to have the mayor always present. He's very engaged. Mayor Sergio Rodriguez, who's on the call here, the superintendents of District 104, the elementary school district, the high school, Argo Community High School 217, and the public library. We still not has been as successful with the small business community in the park yet. And the mayor is really helping engage them because they're a key, particularly for economic development. We really need to have the small business community engaged and benefiting from this whole process for jobs, for their own growth. So as I keep hearing over and over, it's keep asking and supporting each other and making this initiative with with the Office of Broadband and with Benton a catalyst and not the beginning or one-shot deal. It really is going to take time, and we see a lot of things that are going to go much beyond the grant period, but it is still a lot of work. It takes real commitment, and I can't thank enough the Summit community and all the DLN members, and I'm learning a lot from other communities here that Bill, you share, and I'm learning that there may be some synergies that down the road we can help each other. So it's just being very committed, being dedicated, having the passion and the mission, and and eventually stay consistent with that, and you'll see success is what we're expecting. We're seeing definitely some real advancement in this whole initiative.
Good, thank you. Jennifer, as an extension agent, you must have some ideas for best practices for community team building.
Well, from some of the things that people have mentioned, I think reaching out to others is important. And I think with our group, we really were trying to find that good mix where we were making sure we had individuals at each, main industry within the community, if we could, from the hospital to, our partners in business that work in this area. And then all of us either in nonprofits or in local government service. So I think that's making the difference. Let's see if there's anything else in building a good team. I think just really taking the time to be on calls like this. And, I'm kind of writing down little notes right now of things that have been brought up today, of different ways to look at this issue, different ways to grow it. I know we're starting off really working on access, but I keep looking at those opportunities around PCs for people, the whole discussion on, computer science needs for teachers, and kind of seeing what those next steps will be. So, we might start here, but kind of always be thinking about what's going to come next. What area might we be able to push forward over the long term in. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about, and maybe trying to line up what some of those partners might look like in the near future.
There's kind of a dichotomy in community development. If you look at kind of the established teams that operate in many communities, and if you ask them, they say, oh, we're always looking for people, welcoming them in. And, it's always the same 6 people who end up doing everything. And on the other hand, if you would ask their community members, they say, look at those 6 people, they control everything and never invite anyone else in. And so I think it's as leaders in your community, and you think about, well, who else could be involved in this to, not just go to your usual list, but to go broader and do, I know there's a term for this, but it's really, okay, ask somebody, who do you know? And ask them for 4 or 5 names, and then ask those 4 or 5 people, who do you know? So you're getting some distance away from the originators and really expand your circle. So I encourage you to do some of that as you work to grow your teams. Any other advice from the community here on how to maintain and grow your teams?
If I could add something, Bill, I think one of the key things for us was defining early on what were the expectations and responsibilities, being very upfront about the time expectation and the actual accountability that if we say we were going to do something, then by the next meeting, it was really mutual expectations to have that done. So having those what may seem like an awkward conversation at the beginning to really set, again, the expectations of what this engagement actually means and why are you doing it. If you think that it's going to be a status symbol, that's probably not going to be the best thing for either one, you or the organization. So I think that was very helpful with us as we look to broaden our circle. I hear, get as many people involved, but that for us was not exactly the approach, getting people just because we wanted bodies. We wanted bodies that were actually going to have their minds and their hearts into it as well.
Good, thanks for that. I think also that people like an action orientation, that some groups, they have a smaller group and they meet kind of again and you think, oh, we need more people, but then kind of hash over the same things. And I think if you say, oh, look there's 3 of us here or 4 of us here, let's do something. Let's do a survey. Let's do a newspaper article. Let's do a community meeting. And continue to try and chalk up kind of achievements rather than waiting for the right group of people to come and make things happen. So if you can make some things happen, and then when you try and recruit, they say, well, what are you doing? You can say, well, we're having this meeting, we're doing this survey, we're doing mailings, we're doing whatever kind of things. that people say, oh, that's something that's happening, that's moving forward. And I think that also then creates its own sense of gravity that pulls people into the process, as opposed to, well, I went to 3 meetings and all we did is talk about how crummy the broadband is, and no one ever does anything about it. So that kind of repels people. So that action orientation is really important. We've got a number of communities doing surveys right now, or beginning to. And obviously getting people to participate in that is really a key part of that. And I know in Carrollton, part of that survey is also the idea of the speed test that's going along with the survey with a group called Geo Partners. Jennifer, Diane, do you want to tell us about that?
Sure. So Geo Partners is going to be linking within our survey another button that's going to take them to their website, which will ask for the actual address of the home that's taking the survey. We'll have some specific instructions from them that are, I think, coming this week to me, and will have residents, enter their data, and that it will show explicitly why the information is being utilized, how it's going to show on a map. And we're just trying to integrate those two things together. So we're going to be gaining from the survey the information we need about who has service, who doesn't, how many computers are they using within the home, all of that kind of data. And then also capture on a map what the community looks like from their current level of service by doing the speed test. So I anticipate that we will be buying some ads through Facebook because we are covering a certain demographic and radius to get those out. We will be doing some, a lot of social media, and then we'll be doing a number of, QR code signage posters around the community, and working with some of our business organizations and really encouraging them to, have customers take those take the opportunity, use their cell phone to take the survey. It'll be a problem if they don't take it from home to get the speed test. But for a lot of others that do not have computers, we're going to be relying on both the libraries, the health department, and the school district and others to kind of help communicate to those individuals, along with our senior citizen community location groups to get the word out and try to capture some of that information as well. I was really visualizing a map. We have 13,000 plus people, or 13,000 people in the community. I was really envisioning a map that would really showcase as much of that group as we could visually. But I've been told if we get 10% response, that's terrific. And I guess statistically significant, 4% would be really vital. So that's where we're at.
Okay, good. And that Geo Partners software is nice because it really displays the results of the speed test graphically across the county in a pretty simple kind of way. There is a fee that goes with that though, so you have to know that. The other way to do that kind of approach is to have a speed test link in your survey at the top of it and say, okay, go, before you start taking the survey, go take the speed test, and then bring, write the results down and enter those into the survey. And if you can gather then that address for the survey respondent, then many times your county GIS staff can do that same kind of mapping that would show, no service or less than 10 megabits or up to 25 megabits, and, show, the black and red spots are the bad ones and the green means go, which means good internet, and can really be a great visual indicator for folks. Any other comments or questions on surveys as people think about launching these in your community? Good, good. Or any other topic that you heard about today or you're thinking about trying to work on but haven't started yet and looking for ideas? Any questions?
Actually, Bill, in terms of survey, if anyone's looking for either questions as well as translated in Spanish questions, I'm happy to forward you a copy of the survey that Waukegan sent out to about 10,000 homes. And certainly feel free to borrow from it however you'd like.
Good, thank you for that.
I'll put my email in the chat.
And if you actually email that to Robbie, he can put it up on our site as a resource.
This is Caroline. Thanks, Tom. We in Summit would love to see it and see how we could help using the Spanish version. Actually, you will share both of them, right? The English and Spanish. Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good. And then I just wanted to talk for a few minutes about kind of the process going forward. Most of the communities have their situational assessments in hand. And from me, and that's kind of, what we've discussed so far, and then the planned activities over the next couple months. As we get into, and this sounds so good, into May, when the weather's nice and everything, we'll want to turn our attention to, the activities going forward, to look at all the data and so on that you've gathered through your surveys and provider interviews and working with stakeholders and putting together that plan going forward for the next, 9 months or year. This program really ends in June. And so, but we hope that we be able to continue to see and meet with you once in a while through the ICC alumni program. We just got together with 6 previous communities this week. And so that was a real positive thing. But help your community just to say, what is our plan going forward to continue to try and achieve our goals? So we'll look for some, to do that through our regular planning meetings. And then if your team, ideally, your team looks at some of the draft materials that our ICC team has created and really decide to make that your own, with your own input and your own finalizing the strategies and real timelines and so on that your organization and your partners are committed to. And that's the last thing I'll say on that is, ideally, these ICC teams that you have that have members from across your community really do become teams for a platform for working together over time on these access, adoption, and use challenges that you have in your communities. And so hopefully we're creating that system that you can use to make progress over time. So that's kind of where we're heading. Here we are, February. That's just March, April, May, June. That's four more months. So time goes fast, we know, and especially as we start to get into the nicer weather and end of school and so on. I have a question, and I see John's on the phone, so I won't pick on him, but I'm wondering about school surveys and the role of schools in helping to get surveys out. And does that capability end when school's out, or do our schools in communication with families all month long now? Do we have any other comments? John, did you hear my question?
Sorry, I did not. I had a phone call right then.
So does the school's ability to help on community surveys end, at the end of May, or are you guys in communication with families year round now?
Yeah, I'm a 12-monther, so is my whole department. So we can keep on going.
Good. And so that's good to hear. Other questions on the planning process or any other of the topics we talked about today? Kind of quiet from a lot of you out there.
Bill, were you going to say any more about the email about Aspen that you put out yesterday or the day before?
I don't really have a lot of information on that besides what I sent out. It came across my desk and I just forwarded it to the team without much investigation, but it seems like a real opportunity for an area to pursue. I don't think necessarily a town of Carrollton would be a very good applicant for something like that, but that might be something for Benton Institute or Illinois Extension or partners like Carolyn's group that have some statewide, bigger scale to them, I think, to attract attention. So I think there's, it could be a regional planning commission like R1 up in North Central Illinois, where you could say, okay, here's a group of people already working. Some of you have been involved in the READY program that had regional plans in place. And so to take that regional plan and say, how does that relate to this Aspen Institute opportunity, I think is great. And, I think we've shared the document around the nice federal summary of all the different programs for infrastructure and digital equity. I think we shared that at our last meeting, but that's a very great list of opportunities as well for programs. So I don't think there's going to be really any shortage of opportunities to pursue funding. You just have to really match up your plans with what the funders are looking for, and then really decide what's the scale at what we should launch these programs at. And a lot of these funders, they don't want to fund 100 projects, they want to fund 5. So you have to have that scale necessary to make that happen. But I know I did receive positive feedback from a number of organizations that said, that's something that would be of interest. And so I know that Carolyn's group had interest, and I know Rose's group, Community Builders, also had interest in that kind of funding. And if you think, what scale of impact can we get their attention, and with what kind of innovative kind of practices can we do? I think the planning process that you're going through is a real asset when you are writing your application, that you say, hey, we've engaged people, we've got this plan, we've got these stakeholder partners together to try and implement this. I think that really increases your competitiveness to achieve those funds. Adrienne, do you have any connection to the Aspen Institute? Adrienne?
Sorry, Bill, I was trying to find the unmute button. Not at this point. I used to, but unfortunately, my contact has moved on.
So, and I think, also the idea of, and maybe this, I'll get myself in trouble here, but the idea that Benton convening a group, or, we could look at the Illinois Connected Communities groups and say, what could we do together on this? If people have ideas for that, I think our team could be supportive of looking for those funds and how to move forward with them. Certainly bringing in the Illinois Office of Broadband. They've got a digital equity plan, if not approved, at least in process. And so that would be something else to hang our hats on.
Bill, I think it's an excellent idea. I would love for Adrian to consider being the lead, and those of us that are interested can, have a separate discussion and see how we can all put all our resources together in our projects and have something concrete to position. I think Illinois is an excellent chance. I also used to have projects at Aspen. It's been a while that my contact is left, but I think it's a good match.
Many years ago, they used to host an annual broadband conference, and it was actually in Aspen, so that was easy to take. So, but you know what, I'd encourage people to look at that website and kind of say, what makes sense. Bring your ideas to us, and then we'll see if there's appetite. It's a short, I think it's about a 6-week application window. I think late March, I think I remember as the closing date. And so if you have ideas, if you say this would be cool, I think a group like Latinx DLN has reach, through LULAC across Illinois and so on, to see, we've got a number of communities with strong Hispanic populations. That would certainly could be an area of emphasis, or on the youth workforce, young adult workforce kind of issues. I think there's real opportunities there to move forward on a program, but it would take some people say, yeah, let's go kind of thing. I don't think at this point, I don't think Benton has that energy necessary to make it happen, to drag people forward on it, but I think there's always open to ideas. How'd I do on that, Adrienne?
I think you did very well, Bill. If I didn't have a second 40th anniversary party in Washington, D.C. to plan, for those of you who attended the Chicago one, I probably would have a little more energy, but I appreciate that you'll give us some time.
And hopefully those organizations, and maybe I know Adrienne is our lead person with the Ready group from our team, and maybe looking at some of those plans and put them up against that RFP grant application would be an interesting opportunity. You know, we've built that capacity at this regional level, and it'd be great to see them take the next step to chase these funds for implementation. And there's some big hitters there with capacity in terms of universities and regional planning groups too. Kathy?
I was just gonna, I haven't looked at the site, I will, but one thing that struck me, and it was brought up during our conversation today, is to look at that gap in computer science, computer literacy at the school level. And I know, you know, that has become kind of a statewide mantra that we're really lacking in the capacity for computer instruction in the classroom. And it, you know, it's hurting us in terms of tech jobs, and, you know, we're growing in that industry sector all across the state, but attracting and maintaining talent is challenged without that workforce pipeline really being developed. So DPI has a really, Discovery Partners Institute has kind of a work plan around that, the computer literacy piece. So that might be a partnership there. You've certainly got good voices from a school perspective too that could chime in, but I just feel like that's it's a pretty big challenge for the state to build that capacity system-wide. And we've started, but we've got a long ways to go.
I have a comment on this. I follow Kathleen. What part are you from? What group? What community?
The Peoria, the Greater Peoria region. Yeah. So DPI is in Chicago, of course. But have a statewide agenda. Yep.
I'm in discussions with DPI as well, and I'm leading a work group for Illinois State Board of Education to roll out the computer science standards across all the districts. So we are building a coalition of advocates, be it organizations or school districts, in building the strategic plan that really will impact, like you said, the pipeline, and it has to start with teachers getting the right training, the right support, and knowing the phases of implementation that is going to be starting in the fall. Many districts are asking the questions between what's required, what's going to be required in the fall for computer literacy for all kids across K-12 versus computer science courses next year, and everything that needs to be done between now and then. So we are building a coalition, we are building a strategic plan. Anyone interested, please contact me so that you can be part of this coalition.
Good, that's great. Look what you started, Jennifer. Good for you. Good. Well, that's all I have for today. And
Bill, this is James.
I want to thank everyone for their reports. And
James has a question.
Oh, James, go ahead.
Yeah, as it pertains to digital equity, and you talked about the state still working on that planning. As far as grant applications and, HUD properties in particular, there was a time when Matt Smith, mentioned that, the state and companies, organizations could, and HUD facilities utilize HUD resources in combination with state grants. I was just wondering, is that the part of the plan with the digital equity with the state? Is it kind of looking at HUD properties, looking at like the block grant type situations, or does it not apply to that, or is it just general state type grant fundings?
I don't know. So I'm writing that question down for Matt, and maybe we can communicate out through the group again to learn more about that. I'm not aware of any ongoing efforts around that. Adrienne, are you, or? No. So James, that's a great question that we're going to have to find answers to, and we'll be back to you on that.
Okay, great. I appreciate it.
Thank you. James, which group are you with again? Can you remind me?
Yeah, so with AR Designs, we're working in partnership with AT&T and Community Builders.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yep. Bill, they're part of our tech and installation team.
Yeah, good. I promise we'll get back to you on that.
Okay, great.
Good. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day and keep up the good work. We appreciate your efforts as community leaders.
Thank you, Bill and Adrian and everyone in Office of Broadband in Benton.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. Really appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.